What's up, everybody, and welcome to Real Time for the real everyday movie fan. I'm Ryan Murphy.
I'm Josh Williams.
And today we're giving you a real-time recap for the Arrowverse Week 7 of this season.
Man, we're really getting deep into the shows.
I guess, but we have to, before we get started, I have to say that this week kind of sucked. And we talked about Legends bad before. And you know how the logic in Legends is like paper thin? All the shows did that this week.
Not for Arrow.
In fact, big time on Arrow. Like the Legends, ironically, this week was maybe the least idiotic show. It was the most logical show this week. But like, yeah, I think we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. But let's start off with Supergirl, which personally, where I've been praising the show ever since it started the season. This is the episode I actually got a lot more frustrated with, as far as like, okay, because if you're watching the show, obviously, you know, we do recaps if you knowing that we're talking about, knowing you've already seen the show.
Right.
So heavy spoilers if you guys have already been paying attention. You know, when they finally found this ship and they started exploring the ship and they find Mon-El. But before that, they talked about, the ship's been here for 12,000 years. And then, but Mon-El's like, well, I've been here for 7. It's been 7 years since I've seen you, not 7 months. And, you know, he's married and all that stuff. That's not so fine. But they're not asking, like when they found Mon-El and they're like, you know, asking all these questions, they weren't asking the right questions, in my opinion.
He wasn't giving, yeah.
They were keeping a lot of it secret, which hopefully, which I have faith that they'll answer these questions in the future. But the ones I'm thinking of when I was watching the show, the ones I was thinking of was, okay, you got in the future through a wormhole, cool, I get that. How'd you get into the past? Why did you go so far back in the past? Like, it's just a lot of these different questions that are begging to be answered. And then when they had the big reveal for Rain, I don't know, it was okay. But it was like the fortress of, what was it? The fortress of, not solitude, it's something else.
Fortress of having company?
I don't know. But yeah, when she finally found her place and everything like that out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
I don't know, hopefully it'll get better, but I liked that she kind of didn't want to be evil when she knew that's what it was meant to be. That helps, I mean, that kind of goes when you say, hopefully, you know, down the line it'll be like the whole, you know, she'll come back to being good again, or who knows.
Yeah, for me, the Mon-El thing was just stupid. Like, you know, there's something, like you're watching, it was like, he's not telling him the truth. There's something he can't talk about. And at the end, I mean, they haven't given us all the answers yet. So maybe next week they'll give us some reasons why he had to sneak out.
Not next week. This week is Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, maybe in a couple weeks we'll get some answers as to why he had to sneak out, why he had to, you know, go and you know, hurt those two guys to get the thing instead of just telling someone, and he couldn't tell when, or then he just says, I need your help when Win helps him, which I was semi-believable. But then they get there, and it's just some people who are down there. Like, there's no reason he shouldn't have been able to say, like, hey, there's some people down there, you know, they need help. It just sort of came off as like the writers need to have this confusion for most of the episode before we get there, but they don't actually have a good reason for it. So he gets there, and some of the stuff just should have been said, you know, long beforehand. Like, you know, it's just, we need to, you know, why did you attack those people? You have nothing to say? Well, actually, he should say something. Like, he would say something, but it's...
Regardless with the frustration with the screenplay for this episode, I will say Melissa Benoist, I can't pronounce it. There we go. I said it right first time. She brought it in this episode. Her performance has been spectacular throughout this whole season.
When she sees him.
Yeah, that was so
like,
genuine.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Why this show's going to make me cry.
It's so genuine. Her performance was so great in this episode that she just continues to strive in this show as Supergirl.
Yeah.
And also one of the things I really did like was the more development with John Jones, with his father. They're getting their own place.
That's hokey.
It was hokey, but at the same time, I liked it because it kind of brought up an interesting fact, which was true, that in this, since you've known he's John Jones, or you know he's the head of the EO, he has been absorbed in work, and it's kind of good to see maybe some more development out of him outside of it, which would be interesting to see.
Yeah,
but
I just say they're not. I mean, this guy's actually been in prison for 300 years. These aren't the things that would be said. Like, I think he would already have a little bit more priority. Like, hey, my father's been tortured for hundreds of years. Maybe I should, you know. I don't know. It just didn't feel real for me. It felt hokey. It just felt like, you know, shows like this and like Smallville before and stuff have a tendency to like gloss over what would actually be said or what would actually be done and make things very hokey.
But weirdly enough,
brown water it's called coffee, dude. Like, he'd be calling it coffee. Why is he?
But weird enough, I felt like up until this episode, this season has done that though, where they've answered the right questions. They've said the right things, and this one kind of just slipped up a little bit, which hopefully it'll you know course correct and get better. Sure. I didn't like it all that much. I'm probably gonna give it 6.5 just because those glaring questions were really tough for me.
I'm gonna go
and
ahead.
I had a hard problem with it.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6 then. You know.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I just had.
I
just
always
had
have
kind
to
of
be
a
lower than you. We know that.
Yeah,
so.
it's true. It's true.
Okay.
Let's move on to the Flash.
Right.
Now, you didn't see the elongated man, or whatever the elongated man. But this focused on the Thinker and his backstory and
so stupid.
Barry's obsession. So I don't know. What did you?
First things first. Let's give some praise. The actor they got to play the Thinker is awesome. He's
Yeah,
gonna
he's
be a
great.
great villain this
He
season.
is.
I know
He is gonna be a great villain.
He's gonna be awesome. He's that South African accent,
Yep.
just very,
Very
he has a very
villainous.
threatening demeanor to
Yep.
him. I think he's gonna be glorious. But the logic, right? The logic this episode, where like he breaks into it. Like first of all, no. First things first. Like why are you investigating this man? We have a lead. Well, and then literally they fade out. They fade out from their dialogue. When Captain Singh is talking to him, they fade out from their dialogue, so we don't have to actually follow up on that conversation of the captain asking a lieutenant why about this investigation, which he's never going to answer. And this is hardly the first episode of television that's in like a CW like superhero show to do this. They can always like just blow past it with the captain or whatever, like, oh, we have an investigation, and they actually start to talk more about it, but then we don't listen to it. So they never have to actually give an explanation. Then he breaks into their home and he's suspended. Suspended. There is no police force on this planet or any other planet in the cosmos that would not immediately fire and press charges against that individual. You're suspended. No, what? Like, oh my gosh, that was maybe the most unrealistic thing I've ever seen depicted in fiction. They couldn't even think to write it better. And then here's the real kicker. He still doesn't ask him about what he's investigating. Well, you should be
captain?
like,
Yeah.
oh, he's like, you're investigating these people. I don't know why. I don't know what for, but I don't like it. Stop doing it. Like, this is unbelievable. This is when I've talked about before in the past, we do these recaps. I've said like, well, the Arrowverse isn't Shakespeare. It kind of gets hokey. Some of the logic gets funky, especially on Legends, which is just a bad show. And this is what I'm talking about. This kind of thing where it's just so unbelievably stupid. Like you actually have a captain not asking why you're breaking into people's homes and just suspending him. And also when Barry goes to talk to the Thinker, that would never happen. Like that's
no, I think come on.
You've been suspended for breaking into someone's house. Stupid enough.
We've
but
all
now
seen
he's
how
gonna go.
obsessed Barry can get, though.
So he's basically there. He has
we've
no
always
reason to
seen
believe that he's actually gonna break.
I mirror everything you said there, but
Right.
up until when he goes and actually talks to him at school. Because for me, we've seen how obsessed Barry can get with villains and stuff, especially now that when he explained to Iris that, he has so much to live for and so much to, want to protect that he'll do anything. Probably
Right.
even lose his job, willing to do so. I mean, going to see him. So that made it believable for me. But everything else you said, I can
Yeah.
mirror that.
Oh my gosh.
But what I will say, so I'm not going to go into bad. He said I'm exactly mirroring what he said as far as the bad, so I'm not going to go into that. But what I did really like was the interactions between him and the Thinker. I forgot his character name in the movie. DeVoe. Sorry, yeah, DeVoe. But their interaction together, and he is such a good actor. He's got that villainy to him that I think will be really great this season. And I just love when he's like, oh, they're all Child's Play, Avatar, Zoom. You're in the kind of like the big leagues now. I was like, man, I wonder what they got in store for the future. But yeah, all that was kind of, that's what kind of made it okay for me. But I did love, I've said it, I like when the show has a good mixture of fun and serious, grounded tones.
Mm-hmm.
This one got more back to some darker tones because it's showing how obsessed Barry is becoming, but even though he got proved right. And that's what I kind of liked about it. I personally liked about it. So I'm probably going to give this one again, probably a 6.5.
Really? Oh my gosh, that thing.
I had the problems there, but overall, I loved the backstory of the Thinker. I loved how explained and just what he was willing to do just to become smarter, and even when it actually happens, just like his performance when he finds out he has ALS and this and that, like it all kind of helped give it that 6.5.
That all was great. He's obviously great, but how can you sanitize that? To me, just completely delegitimizes the episode. It's just.
What would you give it?
Just horrendous. 4 maybe.
Okay.
I mean, I like the good parts, but that's just like you're better than this Flash. You're not Legends of Tomorrow. You're a better show, So.
So now let's get into
Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow.
This
one was interesting.
Probably the least stupid. In terms of the logic of it all, when Mick immediately runs into his dad, that's what you're thinking. Oh my gosh! And then they actually, but then they address like there's actually something going on. There's a reason why they're all encountering
Yep.
people who are associated with them.
I liked that little
So,
nugget there because
yeah.
at first, like, oh, this another person I'm meeting there.
Yeah.
Then they're like, there has to be a reason we're meeting everyone
Yeah.
of our past. And so I was like, okay, there could be something going on there.
The performance by the dad is still stupid though. Like,
Yeah,
the voice is just
I've seen him in so many
terrible.
things. Like he's been in so many
that
like small.
actor?
Yeah, that act. He's been in so many small roles that it's kind of like, oh, hey, it's that guy. But I liked they focused on Mick a little bit more, and I liked that, and he actually did a good performance with that, especially like. I thought was pretty dark that the legend even did this, where he's like just burning his arm. I was like, dang, they really went there, and because he's so traumatized from what his father did to him when he was a child, that it really brought up some dark tones, and I really liked that. Other than that, I mean, I didn't like how kind of Sarah got put back in, came out of her coma, whatever. But that's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with Grodd, I don't know. It's funny to me how Legends kind of gets the old villains. They get the throwaway, like, oh, you were done with them on this show. We want to bring them back, so we'll take them to Legends. In which, thinking back to Flash, I thought Kid Flash was going to be on this show, but he's back on Flash now, so whatever. But what else did you think of the movie?
I don't know. I thought it was fine. It wasn't too dumb. I don't know why Grodd. They don't ever explain why an anachronism would lead to Grodd being in Vietnam, like, or how that works or any of that.
They haven't really explained how these anachronisms get to the times they are in.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just all random.
It's
Maybe
just all
just
random. Like you broke time, so random people are just pulled.
But weirdly enough, like you would think, for someone like Grodd, like something in the Vietnam time would be like it's a kind of a weirdly perfect setting. For it to be all randomized, that's kind of a weirdly perfect setting.
I think they were trying to cash
him.
in on Kong Skull Island. Like,
Probably a little
earlier
bit,
this
yeah.
year.
Because if you notice, this show does a lot of the because they did E.T. with Brendan Ross' character was Adam. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It was okay. It wasn't actually bad. A lot of the times the show leaves me scratching my head and like, what are you doing? This was kind of fun. I did like how they're kind of still going into separating the Firestorm.
Well, Victor Garber's leaving the show.
Yeah, he is leaving the show.
So.
But are they going to try to keep him as actual Firestorm and just have the Firestorm for himself? Or
I don't know.
We'll see.
We're gonna find out.
What would you give it? You go ahead and do the score first.
I guess I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10.
I'll mirror that one. 6.5 is good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It just had some hokey moments, and it's not like this episode's probably better than most. I mean, I really loved the Adam episode with the ET references. That was probably my favorite of this show so far. But it was okay. And what he said, just Rory's Mick's father was just kind of.
Well, that's how it happens.
All right, let's get lastly
Arrow
with Arrow. So
you
I will
liked
go
it a
ahead and
lot.
start.
You always like
yes,
Arrow. You cut this show so much slack, man. I swear.
The only problem I have is how Black Siren, where last season she could have been easily defeated, now she seems to be very formidable, which is kind of a problem for me. There's no way she could have been just so much more formidable than last season. Nothing really has changed as far as her character goes. But I digress from that one. That one kind of frustrates me a bit. But I will admit, her as Kate Cassidy as Black Siren I like her so much more now as this than the Black Canary. She plays so well as a bad character. It makes me like, there are times I was watching, I'm like, I just want to jump the screen and choke her to death. But that's the whole point. You want to have a villain who you can like hate, but love to hate in a sense.
Yeah.
But as far as the whole story with Oliver and the FBI, I liked it still. I still like where it's going. I wish maybe they would have taken it more to federal court because it was more of an FBI investigation. But I guess there are some rules there that to me was kind of more in reality because there are some rules where if it's within a city, it has to be done by the city, whatever. Yeah. But again, the FBI girl, I'd get frustrated with her too because she's just kind of, I don't know, in a good way though. She makes my skin crawl because that's the whole point of her. She's supposed to be the bad person who's out to get Oliver Queen.
Bad, sort of. I don't know.
But anyway, go ahead.
The thing that bothered me was just the ending of this episode where it's like, well, he maneuvered it so that you see them beating up cops, the night that the vote goes into practice, so the vote goes south. Of course, these guys weren't cops, so this would come out in the news, like, if not that night, like, oh, you swung the vote that night, and that's all that matters. But the next day, they'd be exonerated because you would realize that those weren't cops. But that would take a vote that was leaning one way entirely. Like they said, they had the great majority of the votes to not pass the referendum. And then it was entirely blown away by this thing of them beating up cops, which would be entirely disproved the next morning. But the next morning he's like, well, the people have spoken. He would not be saying that. He'd be calling for a second. At best, he'd be calling for a second vote. But even if he didn't, and I don't think people would have a problem with that. Be like, yeah, you know what, you're right. This was totally, our judgment was swayed by false circumstances that were falsified. But like, he's just like, the people have spoken. Like, no, they haven't. The people were totally on your side. They faked something that's been disproven. Like, it needs to be. I don't know. It was frustrating for me, the logic of that, but.
I don't know. I not that I gave it a pass. To me, I guess it made sense. I don't know. Maybe the logic there was, and that was the whole point that they actually did that on purpose, even though it was later. Did it actually come out in the news and say it was disproven? Because the team found out that they were fake, but I don't know. Did it actually come out that they were?
How would that not be? They're fake cops. Like, you're literally like, these men were arrested, for impersonating officers and bombing. They were part of the conspiracy to bomb the stadium or whatever. But other than that, not a terrible episode. Kind of like Legends, just all right. I like Billy Joel showed up in it. That was I don't know where if they got that footage. They just went to a Billy Joel concert.
Probably got the footage, yeah.
Right. I don't know if he agreed to or I don't know, but that was.
I really liked it, and I liked how they're diving. I liked how they finally addressed the situation between Dig and Oliver.
Right.
Where Oliver finally found out he's been juicing to keep as the Arrow, but then you kind of found out that he wanted to be the Arrow at first, because that was always a lingering question in my head. Well, Oliver asked him to give up his life too, because he's got a son, he's got a wife, but it came out Dig wanted to be the Arrow. He wanted it more than anything, and I actually loved the character stories within this. The main story is kind of because the guy running Helix, he's a okay villain. I actually like Black Siren more, but he's like the main one. I don't know. That's okay. What makes this show so great for me is that the story with Oliver as the mayor, and then people still trying to get him as the Oliver Queen, as the Arrow, but at the same time, just the overall development of the characters and story within them, especially now that Oliver and Dig got to have that talk, which I thought was really well done. I don't want to say it was the weaker of them, but I still really liked it. I don't know why. I love this show. I think this show is course corrected from season 3 or 4, which I personally think were the weakest of the series. It's course corrected in a dramatic way, in a good way. I'm still going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. It wasn't the best one of the show, but I still really liked it. What about you?
I'll probably give it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10? So. Yeah. So, but this week, it wasn't the best. It was frustrating a little bit at times, especially with Supergirl. I was very disappointed in Supergirl because the show has been on such a roll, and it kind of messed up a little bit. But now, looking forward,
Crisis on
Earth
X. Well, I'm not going to say it's going to because it could be shit. But it looks cool.
It looks so cool.
It just looks like it's going to be a really cool 2.5-hour adventure extravaganza with bad guys and returning guest stars and just like
Nazis.
Hopefully, let's say a prayer here. Give me your hand. No, your other hand, stupid.
What is he doing? What is this guy
doing?
Say
a prayer that they treat it like a movie, right? They don't do what they did last year, where they broke it up into all and then so Arrow was just about like Arrow, and they kind of finagled it into the story.
I will admit, I didn't like that last year where they kind of did episode by episode. This one, I want them to be just like a focus group, kind of like the Avengers does.
But like the cool, I think the first episode is Supergirl, and it's Barry and Iris's wedding. So I think it's going to be that way. I think it's just going to all just pool it,
That's what I'm hopefully looking forward to. And I hope this year they'll finally let John Jones fight.
No.
You don't think that'll happen?
Because it's all going on Earth 1, and they've shown.
But they brought over her sister.
Yeah, because she was going to the wedding, so they've already shown that John Jones isn't involved in it.
I
don't know why Alex is going to the wedding. She doesn't know.
Right. They shouldn't know anybody. But anyway, okay, I guess whatever. But still, looking forward to that. I can't wait to see how that rolls out.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That'll do us for today, folks. What did you think of this past week of the Arrowverse? And what do you think looking forward to Crisis on Earth X? Please leave your comments in the section below and let us know what you thought. Also, subscribe to our channel so you can see more of our content in the future. And until next time, I'm Ryan Murphy.
I'm Josh Williams.
And thank you for keeping it real.
With ReelTime.